Chapter 8. Secrets of the Monte Carlo.
Secrets of the Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo, Monaco. I slept until noon, a comfort from a past life that I barely remembered. When I finally woke up, I noticed I was alone on the bed. I rubbed my eyes and rolled my neck. 5 cracks. Not bad. For a minute, I assumed Selene had left. Like, left. That was standard procedure after nights like those, after all. But then, it was her room. Oh, so where'd she go? On the balcony, scribbling away in her notebook, my answer sat at a black metal table. It was rare for a smile to sprawl across my face so early, but as I forced myself out of bed, I was beaming. Gently tapping on the sliding glass door, I mouthed, "Good morning." Selene jolted up and met my gaze with a kittenish grin. Her blue irises matched so exactly the brilliant indigo of the harbor that they appeared almost like transparent holes. As she stood up, her faded pair of gray sweatpants and scantily buttoned white dress shirt swayed in the afternoon wind. "Morning," she opened the door. "Morning. Getting some work done?" I asked, glancing at the notebook on the table. She blushed a little and quickly slammed the notebook shut. "Not professional, just, personal stuff, you know?" she replied. I nodded. "A diary, huh?" "Well, we should probably start getting ready," I said. "Big day for the both of us, right?" Selene went to take a shower and I tried on the Zara suit. The fit was good. Looking in the mirror, I flexed a bicep. Covers up my ratty fugitive attire nicely. I played around with the wad of cash in my pocket, firing blue steels and raising eyebrows at my reflection. All right. Time to get serious. Honestly, I didn't know much about gambling. Sure, I'd been to Vegas a couple times, hit the slots, and blew tiny fortunes on games of blackjack. I knew the rules, sort of. I knew that you couldn't be honest if you wanted to hold on to your money. You pick your ethics or your net worth and you throw the other one away. That's how gambling works. Casino knowledge was really neither here nor there, though, since I had Brutus on my side. I just have to hope that he's actually on my side. That Tuesday was the beginning of the most critical leg of my journey. The coming 30 hours would prove more important than the previous 30 days. Knowing that authorities believed I was en route to Moscow was a comfort, but in a place like Monaco, you can never be safe enough. I have to move as fast as I can. My goal was to have around 1 million euros by the end of the week, more than enough to give my punching bag his cut and pay off the Italians. I could even buy Selene a chicken parm on the way. So, I had a handful of days to make roughly 4 times what I was worth in cocaine, New York standard pricing. What was my master plan, you might ask? Well, I'd beaten the shit out of Brutus, and I hoped he'd sort out the rest. What could go wrong? Just before 2, Selene and I headed to the Monte Carlo. We looked like extras from Casino Royale. I didn't remember its price, but I guarantee my Zara suit had no business accentuating my shoulders the way that it did. Selene's crimson dress clung to her every curve the same way it had when I saw it a few nights before. "I must be dreaming," I said, imitating Sean Connery as best I could. "Nope. It's real life. And I hope you're not hinting that I look like a pussy galore," she said with a raised eyebrow. Shit. Forgot how sexist Bond can be. Can't a man just appreciate a good-looking dress from time to time? I sighed. It wasn't long before we reached a courtyard across the street from the casino. Fine-cut lime-green grass with meticulously assorted palm trees and rose bushes that circled around an opulent fountain at its center. The fountain boasted 3 circular layers of pressured streams concentrated around a contact lens-shaped platinum mirror. It's always a fountain. "Okay, so I'll be gambling until dinner. What's your plan?" I asked. "Well, there's always the off chance that Parity's here, so I'll keep an eye out. He isn't easy to find based on appearances, though. Apparently he's had quite the makeover since he became a European," she said. "See, I look homeless most of the time for a reason, you know." The accounts of what he looks like right now are pretty varied, and none of them match his pictures from before the murder, so I'm mostly going to ask around for any information I can find. A casino like this is bound to have some leads. "Good plan. So, see you here around 4:30 for dinner then?" "It's a date." At 2 o'clock on the dot, we stepped across the threshold of the Valley of Hope, the Monte Carlo. Selene made straight for the slot machines. Not a bad place to look for a man who's lost everything. I strolled over to the big money tables with my eyes peeled for my friend. My gaze hovered briefly over the craps table, wandered past the poker tables, and landed on a familiar sight at a blackjack table. Brutus Soufflard, in pretentious font. He looked at me with a surprising glance. I'd half expected him to give me an ocular middle finger. Of course, if he was going to rig the table in my favor, he couldn't betray the slightest indication that he knew who I was, in a good or bad way. Instead, his look was entirely unassuming. The middle finger was implied. He gave a slight nod of the head, which I took to mean, "Come to my table so we can get this over with, you bastard," in dealer sign language. Well, looks like we're good to go. Figures. Not like he had any choice. Afternoon, Brutus? I said. I was the first to sit down at his table, and he gave me a terse nod. "Hello, sir," he replied curtly. "Do you plan on playing for a while?" I pressed my lips together and diverted my eyes for a second. I guess he can act annoyed now that I've sat down. Yeah, actually, I think I will." He forced a smile, which seemed more painful to him than getting his cojones kicked. "In that case, sir, you may want to get a beverage." He motioned over to the bar. "Mimosas are an all-day favorite here. Don't worry, I'll make sure you have a seat when you get back." "Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I'll be right back then," I said before sauntering off to the bar, wishing I could slam my foot into his groin just one more time for good measure. When I returned from the bar with my cloudy orange drink, 2 other players were sitting at the table. A rich, dumb-looking couple of boomers. Par for the course at the Monte Carlo. "Back, sir? Are you here to stay this time?" Brutus asked. "Yep. Let's get into it," I said with genuine enthusiasm. "How much?" 10,000 to start." "The minimum." "Huh?" Brutus glared, issuing me a set of 10 white chips. The hag and geezer simultaneously guffawed. Both of them lorded over hordes of chips looking like the Soviet cartoons of wealthy industrialists. "It's a start," I said with a grimace. Brutus snickered along with the boomers. "All right," he said. "Place your bets." Sitting at the table required a minimum of 10,000 euros, a measure designed to ensure that players couldn't leave when they began understanding that the game was less of a game and more of a robbery. On an individual turn, however, you could bet as little as 1 white chip, or 1,000 euros. Since my objective was to stay alive and slowly accumulate cash, the logical choice was to bet the minimum, the true mark of a novice or a coward. The boomers both wagered a red chip, worth 5,000 apiece, and Brutus proceeded to deal. Each of us received 2 cards, face up. I got a 6 and a 7. In blackjack, the suit of the card isn't important. All that matters is the total number you're dealt. I had 13. The geezer had 9 and the hag had 11. Brutus placed down his own card. 6. He gave his card a solemn nod and looked up expectantly. "Hit!" the geezer said confidently, starting the game by tapping his finger on the deep green fabric of the table. Brutus drew another 6 and slapped it on the geezer's pile. 15. Then it was the hag's turn. She tapped the table to indicate a hit and was given a 9 accordingly. 20. Next, Brutus looked at me. 13, huh? I'll probably have to get a bit closer. I tapped the vine-colored velvet and was issued a 10. 23. "You bust," he stated bluntly, taking my chip and placing it in his master pile. "Oh, honey, with 13, you only bet if the dealer shows a 7 or higher," the hag said with a scoff. "That's just common knowledge." "Common knowledge? Give me a fucking break." Brutus chuckled under his breath like a middle schooler when their bully gets harassed by a high schooler. But he wasted no time directing his attention back to the geezer. Tap. "I'm feeling bold today, honey," he proclaimed as Brutus delivered him a 7. 22. "You bust," the dealer said. I laughed at the man as Brutus took his red chip. The geezer responded by scrunching his nose, which quickly evolved into a loathing scowl when the hag joined in my amusement. Gosh, who knew blackjack was so brutal? Brutus looked at Grandma impatiently. "You're up, ma'am." The hag ceased cackling and waved her hand horizontally. "Right, I'll stand." Brutus nodded deferentially and drew another card from the deck, placing a 9 on his own pile. 15. He drew again, this time adding an 8 to his pile. 23. "Looks like you win, ma'am," Brutus said. He grabbed a green chip, worth 10,000, from the master pile and placed it before her. The geezer's red chip and my white one were now Monte Carlo property. Damn it. "No surprise," the hag said to the whole table like she owned the place. "People like this really test my support of Social Security." Brutus took her red chip back into the master pile and left his hands hovering above. He looked like the most hated chef at a second-rate hibachi joint. "Place your bets." The elderly couple fervently discussed their next bets. The geezer urged the hag to gamble her newly acquired green chip because, "What's the point in winning money just to look at it?" The hag reproached him for his prodigal suggestion, countering with, "What's the point of winning money just to lose it?" Admittedly, the hag was much smarter than her husband. As this was going on, Brutus's hibachi hands gravitated over the black and purple chips in the master pile, worth 25,000 and 50,000 respectively. It was fleeting. I'd scarcely picked up on his action, much less its significance, before he stated, "Oh, sir, you can't actually keep your drink on the table. It'll damage the fabric." I raised an eyebrow. "You asked me to get this drink, douchebag." He picked up the glass from the top and moved it to the edge of the table. "Sorry, house rules." Everyone laughed again, and I remembered how tough it was having acne growing up. Another game came and went. Tap, deal, bust. Tap, deal, bust. Tap, deal, bust. This time, the whole table socialized the losses and left Brutus with the win. I picked up my drink to drown my sorrows in mimosa. Circling the straw, I felt a couple objects that seemed new. The drink had ice cubes, which I was expecting, but whatever I tapped with the straw felt too thin to be ice cubes. My eyes widened. "Chips?" "What?" the hag asked snobbishly. "2 games, all you can handle, hotshot?" "No, mimosa's just strong is all," I shot back casually. Brutus raised his eyebrows as I carefully placed the glass down. While harmless enough, I understood his look to confirm the new ingredients in my drink. "All right, let's continue." Another hour rapidly melted away. Whoever says that time flies when you're having fun must never have come to the Monte Carlo. Tap, deal, bust. Tap, deal, bust. Tap, deal, bust. The boomers played, and I got played. The geezer's gameplay was the blackjack equivalent of a clock without batteries, stuck at noon or midnight, let's say. He made ridiculous bets every game, and most of the time he'd lose. No calculation, but boundless confidence. Through the games, his pile of green chips withered away. 16, 12, 10, 8, 4, 0. Extinction was the final straw. The geezer growled angrily at Brutus in the next game and bet a royal purple chip, a bet of retaliation. Inexplicably, he won. 50,000 euros pocketed in the blink of an eye. And the clock strikes 12. The hag, on the other hand, was a strategist. I wouldn't have been surprised if she started reciting Beat the Dealer right there at the table. Turn after turn, she'd admonish her husband for his rash gameplay as she gradually mitigated her losses and accumulated more chips. She bet only red and green chips, probably calculating that the 15,000 euro jump from green to black wasn't worth the risk. By the end, she'd raked in a sizable 40,000 more than she started with. With neither bold confidence nor tactical knowledge on my side, I sat grinding my teeth in frustration as my pile burned to ash. Tap, deal, bust. Another one gone. Tap, deal, bust. And another one gone. Tap, deal, bust. Another one bites the dust. Not counting the ones in my drink, I never had more than 10 chips in my possession. In fact, after the first 2 games, I never had more than 8. Usually, I'd have less to my name than a single bet that even the frugal hag placed. When the geezer's ridiculous gamble paid off, I was barely clinging on to my last 2 chips, and I desperately wanted a smoke. "I think I'm going to call it," the old man said, ogling at his pile. "Good thinking, Don," the hag said. "Let's go get some food." They stood and gathered their belongings leisurely, and I understood why the kids these days talk about eating the rich. "Best of luck, sweetie," the hag said, fastening her eyes shut like a passive-aggressive mother-in-law. The geezer howled all coyote-like for a few seconds too long before his wife clenched a handful of his shirt and led him away. "I think I'll be shutting down the table now, too," Brutus said. "Fair enough." I stretched my arms. "I could go for a smoke break, actually." "I know a good spot if you don't mind my tagging along," he said, eyeing my mimosa. I agreed. "Got it. Might want to finish that first, though. You can't take the drink outside." I glanced at the glass. It was soaked in condensation and the ice had completely melted. "Probably won't taste too great." "Guess I forgot I was here once the game heated up," I laughed. The opaque combination of champagne and orange juice perfectly concealed the chips. I hadn't taken a sip in fear of tipping off the boomers or potential cameras. "I'll be there in 10, he said. "Gotcha." I made my way to the men's room. Apparently, bathrooms had become my base of operations in Monaco. Stepping into the handicap stall, or as I like to call it, the luxury stall, the first order of business was to dump the drink. The orange cocktail drained, leaving 5 purple chips sitting calmly in the sink basin. 250,000 euros? It was around 4. I took a leak and wondered why I hadn't started conning casinos earlier in my life. Across the street, at the courtyard where I was supposed to meet Selene, I admired the fountain waiting for Brutus. It seemed more personal than I was used to, with regal streams accentuating the chrome mirror at its heart. Instead of a king or a god, the mirror placed the focus of the monument on the observer themselves. I watched my reflection mouth the words, "You must take matters into your own hands." Soon my reflection was joined by another. Brutus arrived at the courtyard wearing his dealer uniform and a friendly sneer. "Heh, first time at a casino, hotshot?" he asked, playfully grasping my shoulder. I expected him to sucker punch me, but his hand seemed to hold no violence. "Can't say it's my forte, can I?" I bashfully tilted my head. "Not at all. But hey, who needs finesse when you have brute strength?" he said, tightening his grip on my shoulder. For an instant, his eyes became fangs that bit into mine. I tensed up and gave him a gun-barrel stare. Any snake, no matter how poisonous, is nothing once it's been pumped full of lead. Suddenly, Brutus's malice slithered away. I'd won the standoff. He gave my shoulder a pat before removing his hand. "Just kidding, big guy," he said, flashing a meek smile. "Leave yesterday's problems for yesterday's me, that's what I always say. Besides, I was too hard on you expecting 16K up front. And you're a real moneymaker anyhow, even if you are the worst gambler I've ever seen." He extended a hand. "Honest, I was just messing with you." I left his hand suspended for a couple seconds, my 9mm pupils still trained straight at him. "All right," I scowled and finally shook his hand. "Look, we're friends now, okay? The proof is in your pockets," he said, smugly leaning against the handrail that lined the courtyard. I exhaled, relaxing my shoulders and rolling the chips around in my pocket. I guess I can't expect him to be completely on board. Still, he'll end this week 500,000 richer, too. It's fine. "Yeah, I was wondering about that, actually," I said. "How exactly did you pull it off?" "Simple sleight of hand, really. It's all about misdirection," he explained, waving his arms through the air like noodles before flipping his hands around to reveal a card in each one. "It's the same principle as that magic trick. I used to do magic when I was little, got into card tricks, and decided to make a living out of it. Come to find out, the big money isn't in concert halls, but casinos. I guess the quickest way to a fortune is ripping people off." I laughed, impressed by the elegance of his cheap magic and the truth in his words, a true master of his craft. "Well, from one thief to another, I gotta hand it to you," I said, finally returning his smile. "You really do know what you're doing." "What can I say? Not my first rodeo." He sported a devilish grin. "So, you mentioned something about 500,000, right?" he asked. "Yeah," I replied. "Actually, if we're splitting it, make that a cool million." "All right, that'll take a day," he replied without missing a beat. "Just a day? Wait, is that it?" "You thought it'd take longer, hotshot?" he asked with an arrogant laugh. "Well, yeah. I've spent the last couple of months, paycheck to paycheck, I guess you could say." I offered a sugar-coated truth. Yep, no doubt about it. Definitely your first time at a casino, he said, acting like an older brother. Shut up, man, I said, shaking my head with a smile. Look at it this way. You just made $250,000 in less than 2 hours, and that was with nothing to start with. Money is like a magnet. The more you have, the more you get, Brutus said, leaning back against the handrail and stretching an arm out in front of his face. With a $250,000 cushion and my help, we'll have more than you know what to do with this time tomorrow. I stared at his hand. I could see years of practice in every callus. So, what's the plan? More mimosas and blackjack? First of all, it's 21, he said, using his additional 3 inches of height to look down on me. Don't worry, I don't ever get carded anymore. I stroked my beard, still silky and smooth from his first proper shower in Europe. Besides, isn't the drinking age 18 over here? Not the drinking age, dumbass, the game, he said, launching into an extravagant groan. Oh, it's not called blackjack over here. It's 21. Sheesh, are all Americans this stupid? I cringed and pretended to stretch. That does make a lot more sense than blackjack, to be fair. Okay, 21, I said with air quotes. Either way, I can't imagine you'd get away with slipping 15 chips into my drink, right? No, I'm good. Some might even say the best, he said, taking a hand and literally patting himself on the back. But unfortunately, nobody's that good. So how? I asked, glossing over his bravado. Right. Well, now that we're on the same page, I won't have to resort to basic stuff like what I did today. Tomorrow's the big leagues, he said, looking to see if I shared his excitement. I forced myself to. Go on. We'll be taking advantage of what's called delusional shuffling. I can tell that you have no clue what that means, so I'll explain. Delusional shuffling is the name we in the scamming industry have given the current shuffling system used in most casinos. Vegas, Atlantic City, Reno, here, all the big names. Basically, it was devised to weed out advantage play. I raised my eyebrows. It's legal cheating, he curtly explained, and my eyebrows fell. Anyways, he continued, we call it delusional shuffling because these smart-ass pit bosses think they finally got us beat with this new system. They don't. Actually, it's pretty simple to get around with a talented dealer, i.e. me, and good teamwork. Think you can handle that, hotshot? Of course. Good. Here's how it works. The main deck is broken down into 6 piles, and each of those piles gets shuffled 3 times. That's where the fun starts. At the end of each shuffle, I'll flash you the top 2 cards of the new pile. It'll be so slight that the other players and the cameras won't be able to pick up on it. But enough for you to get it. I think. Each time that happens, you've got to remember the order and the number of the cards. There are 6 shuffles total, so you'll have 12 cards. You have to commit these cards to memory. I cannot stress that enough. Numbers, order, all of it. That's the essential bit here. This just gets tougher and tougher every day, huh? After that, I'll put all the piles back together. Usually, they'd be jumbled together randomly, and I'd have one of the players cut the deck for good measure. Move the cards in front of the cutting block to the back of the pile, straighten it out so it looks pretty, and put the whole thing in the shoe. Boom. You're good to go. What? What the hell does he mean, put it in a shoe? Not one time today did I see this guy stick a deck of cards in his shoe. Instead, I'm going to make sure the 12 cards you know are at the front of the deck. It's pretty simple. I'll make sure they're in order when I put the piles together and leave a slight step in the deck. Look for that step in the deck. That's where you'll cut it. That way, I'll do the whole shuffle, but R12 will still be at the front. Then straighten it out and into the shoe, and we've got ourselves a winning scam. Again with the fucking shoe. Not to mention this absurd blink and you miss it strategy of his. Not a chance. My jaw wouldn't shut after he finished, but no words came out. Need me to dumb it down for you, hotshot? Think about it like this. Memorize all 12 cards and then cut the deck at the step. That's all you have to do. No, I got it for the most part, I said. I just don't know if I can do that. I mean, if not even the cameras can pick up on the cards, how am I going to be able to do it? He tried on a mocking frown. Alright, whatever. Okay, I'll try, okay? Look, I get it, he said, swapping his frown for a leer. I'm not saying it's gonna be easy. Honestly, it's tough for seasoned pros, and let's face it, you've got slot machine skill at best. I guarantee it's possible, though. And you can practice. I'm sure your hotel gives you a deck of cards, right? I nodded. Alright, same table, same time tomorrow. After we're done, we'll meet here and split the pot. Any questions? He asked. Yeah, just one thing, actually. What? Well, you mentioned a shoe earlier today. It all makes sense other than that. I mean, I just didn't see you use a shoe all day. God. Is this actually your first time at a casino? I shrugged. The shoe is where I put the deck of cards. You know, the glass box in the middle of the table. Ah. Just work with the cards tonight, and get some rest while you're at it. Once Brutus left, my eyes shut. My eyelids felt like Atlas shouldering the weight of the world. After a couple minutes, I managed to open them again. My reflection in the fountain seemed much less clear than before. Was it the mist or the circumstance? I don't know. Soon my reflection was joined by another, a fuzzy but unmistakable figure in a sexy red dress. Selene, I said with a cough, straightening my back. Marco, she exclaimed, missed ya. She took me by surprise, grabbing my face and tenderly pulling it into hers. After she pulled away, I flushed red. Man, I've got to stop doing that. Yeah, I missed you too. How'd the tables treat ya? She asked, placing her hands lightly on her hips. Oh, they were all right, I said, kicking my feet. Just all right? She said, gingerly squeezing my arm. Yeah, I was only able to make, 250,000! Selene's face lit up and she threw a punch at my bicep. Marco, that's great! Isn't it? Selene's blue eyes told a captivating story. A story has the power to lift you out of reality for a while and take you somewhere marvelous, and her eyes took me to the high seas. Just a few more days, and I swear we'll set sail. Luck or skill? She asked, cocking her head. Neither, really. Well, both, really. She gripped my hand and started leading me across the courtyard. Any dirt on Parity? I asked as we marched. Nothing real yet, she said with a frown. So far, just a bunch of lonely slot machine losers pretending to know stuff so I'd talk to them. I swear, it's always the sorriest bunch at these casinos. I nodded. Now, that's a good description of casinos. The tables are Wall Street and the slots are Main Street. I think I'm close, though, she insisted as we walked down the sidewalk, passing the alley where I dismantled Brutus. I don't know why, but my gut's telling me he's right around the corner. Anyways, the one woman I spoke to today told me about a little place called L'Hirondelle a few blocks over. It's supposed to have a gorgeous waterfront view, she said, her pitch rising with every word. I rolled my eyes and smirked. Little, huh? She scrunched her nose and said, Well, little for Monaco. She stopped, placing her free hand on her face with exaggerated admiration. I flung my head back inside. What's the problem? Aren't you, rich now, idiot?